So this is my interview with the developers of OlliOlli World, Roll7. We talked a lot about the game, and it's a very interesting conversation. So check it out only here on Gamertag Radio.
All right, there you go. Perfect. All right, so we're gonna just start the interview with like just introduce yourselves and we'll go from there. Wanna go first, Tom?
Oh yeah, so I'm
Yeah.
Tom Hegarty, and I'm the co-CEO of Roll7.
All right, and Simon?
Hey, Danny. I'm Simon Bennett. I'm co-CEO of Roll7.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about your company, because I know you guys worked on various projects in the past, gaming before the OlliOlli World. You want to talk about that a little bit?
So do you want to take that, or should I go way back? Or
I mean, we could go way back. Tom and I have actually known each other since Transformers and Lego days, back in when we were about six or seven, maybe even younger. We were in bands together, and then we set up a couple of businesses in music and film animation. We met our now creative director, John, who set up our video game design course back in 2004, 5. And then, we set up Roll7 in 2008. We've made OlliOlli, OlliOlli 2, Not a Hero, Laser League, and now OlliOlli World.
Yeah, and OlliOlli World, I played the demo now. I was actually doing that for like a couple hours because I wanted to pass my score. And look, I never played part 1 or part 2, and I really enjoyed this game a lot, man. So you want to tell us how this is different than the previous game? Previous games? Yeah.
Yeah, so the first 2 games, we really love, and they were kind of in the early 2010s. I just said this earlier. What do you call that decade? The tenties.
The tens.
The early tens. There was a lot of the games around that time, or there was a part of games that was kind of making really hardcore, difficult experiences that kind of appealed to a lot of people. And the original OlliOllis was very much kind of targeted at that area. If you wanted your fingers to bleed, if you wanted to replay a level 100 times, those were the games for you. And I think with OlliOlli World, we want it to be a far more welcoming experience. And this is kind of comes out in the art style, in the way the game plays. There is still a lot of stuff in there, a huge amount of space for mastery for people coming back to the series. But we want to make sure that kind of people who played the original games, who maybe thought, you know what, it's a bit too difficult, they're able to kind of progress through the critical path. And then if they want to, it's kind of up to them to build on the mechanics they want to, chase scores if they want to. Like you were saying when you played the demo, the fact you wanted to go back and get those scores is kind of, that's the way you want to play, and that's really nice to hear. If people just want to get through, find out about the story, that's really cool too.
Yeah, and this is the first time you guys added a story in this, right? Because before it was just more focused on the tricks and points. What made you guys decide to add a story in the game for this one?
I think for us, we added we had a fun platformer with story and heart in Not a Hero, and when we made OlliOlli 1 and 2, John and I weren't like the sort of background to OlliOlli is that John used to be our creative director used to be a sponsored skateboarder, and I used to skate a lot as well when I was younger. But we'd both been out of the culture for a long time, and it wasn't until we made those games that we, I guess, just fell back into skate culture. We had a bunch of promotional skateboards from the game, and we're like, well, we should probably take those out for a cruise. And John particularly got very heavily back into skateboarding. He's out every single day. He's following all of the the pro tour, and he's basically living that culture again from his teens. And that renaissance and that involvement within that culture and the group of his friends, a very diverse group of friends in that sort of area, has in turn influenced and the sort of the story and the world that we've built with the game. And I think he really wanted with this iteration of the series to bring a part of skateboarding that maybe isn't talked about too much. It's not just this sort of masochistic, very masculine part of skateboarding that maybe would have come out of the 80s and early 90s. It's this much more inclusive and diverse skate scene that we now see, on our streets today. So I think like that's the crux of it from what I can see.
I know because I'm a huge fan of just video game music, and I really enjoy the music in this game. Was that in-house, or you worked with other producers outside of your studio?
Yeah, the soundtrack in the OlliOlli series is one of the crucial parts of the experience, and we tend to work with quite relatively unknown artists from the independent dance music and electronica and lo-fi kind of beat scene. Mm-hmm. And we've worked on this project predominantly with a French label called Cascade Records. And yeah, it's a labor of love. It's a process that we really care about. It's a sound that's very specific to the game. It very much matches the world that we're building, but also matches the flow of the game that you're playing. Like in the original series, we tried punk and rock and grunge before, for the first few months in production, and it just really wasn't congruous to that experience. It didn't lend itself to that kind of one more go experience. These sort of relaxed beats. I was glad to hear that you picked up on that.
Yeah, no, I could tell the difference. Like, you could tell like it really blends in perfectly with the game. So, and even I noticed in the background there was like a couple of like break dancers. I was like, all right, I'm from New York City, so I grew up with hip hop. So I was like, all right, that's good to add in the game.
Yeah. So we, as Sai said, like on the originals, we tried different versions. And for OlliOlli World, we again went back to visit that, and we're like, do we look at different types of music for different parts of the world? And again, tried it, and it doesn't quite fit. So this kind of genre of music, internally we call it Swazi music. Like that's, I hope none of the artists are offended if we say it's Swazi. If you type Swazi into Spotify, I don't think it will come up, but it's that kind of vibe, and we want people to kind of, when you play the game, sit down, just kind of relaxes you, and as Sai said, just brings you into that world. Like it's a huge part of it.
Yeah. Ironically, Swazi is what your now brother-in-law used to describe my snowboarding style as, because my hips were too loose. But that's the kind of vibe that we go for. It's loose, it's jazzy, it's sort of funky, syncopated synth lines. It's a new take on, like, I don't know, all the music that we love. It's a mixture of hip hop and jazz and electronica in a fresh and bubbly and exciting new kind of sound. And yeah, the artists that are making it, like, we are, totally indebted to them to lend that flavor to the game. So
nah, that's perfect. I love it, man. Now let's talk about the crew that's in the game too. What's up with that? What's up with that?
So I think kind of, as Simon mentioned earlier with the previous game, Not a Hero, kind of, we brought these characters in and it kind of had this heart and soul, and we really enjoyed doing that. And with the previous OlliOlli games, and as kind of we mentioned before, like, a lot of skating games kind of are set in this post-apocalyptic environment, and you're sitting and go, where's everyone gone? Why is there no one here? And we really wanted OlliOlli World to be this place where people live, and they are. And so the crew are there, as Simon said earlier, to kind of really kind of explore that side of skateboarding, which is about hanging out with your friends, kind of encourage people to do stuff, just having a nice chilled time. But, different kind of characters of the crew will give you different parts as you go through. So Mike, he's all about making you be more gnarly, hence his name, Gnarly Mike, but he gives you the challenges. You've got Sue, she's all about you trying to be, get perfect. Dad's kind of more about being safe, but you're kind of giving the score challenges as well. So, each kind of crew kind of gives us a different way to give you challenges. And we wanted the whole thing to be cohesive, really. So rather than beat this score or do this thing, it's like, do this thing as part of this world, as a friend might challenge you to do.
That's cool. It's cool. Now, one thing that I really enjoy is that I have options to go to different locations, right? Like hidden pathways. Is there going to be a lot of those in the game too? Like, is there going to be more than just two paths, or what?
Yeah. I think like the really exciting thing for this game, and early on in production, we were prototyping a totally different game. It was a totally different skateboarding game that was essentially trying to replicate the sort of pro skate park experience, where they have these different lines. It tends to be 3 distinct kind of lines within, a skate park, where at the end of it, you've got a quarter pipe or just, a banked sort of end point, and you turn around and you continue your line along there.
Look at that. He's so excited, dropping stuff.
Man, I'm excited about this game.
OlliOlli World, let's go.
Damn. But yeah, so we had this prototype, and we had our main game. I went away on holiday and I came back, and they, the team had merged both of the experiences, and it really lent itself to this weird and wacky new platformer where you can explore different routes. It allows us to go into the screen, out of the screen, back on yourself. And I think from a sort of, I guess, when you look at a game and you look at the name of the game, OlliOlli World for us has always been the name of the game. And it's hit that on the pillars of what it looks like and the story around it, and the sort of, Pixar, it's a big, weird skateboarding world where everything revolves around skateboarding. But for me, this game really became OlliOlli World when we merged these two things together, and suddenly it wasn't just a linear sort of platformer. It was a platform with multi routes, and you're going back on yourself and you're twisting in and out, and it's a world that you ride through and not past. I think that's the crux of it. For me, that's what really was exciting. And there's not that many games that do that in the platformer space, and I think it's a really unique part of the game that we're excited to see how people get on with.
Yeah, so look, I've been playing this for hours, just the demo, and I can't wait for the final version. Now, my question I do have is there going to be some multiplayer or any way for me to compete with my friends, leaderboards, or anything like that? I don't know if it's too early to mention anything about that, but I'm ready for it.
We're not able to discuss too much on that front. All I can say is watch that space. Watch this space. There's some really cool stuff that we've got coming in on that front. But yeah, keep an eye on that, Danny.
Yeah, cool. Very good to hear. What do you have, guys? Release any official date for this? The release or not yet?
Winter is the current zone.
Time frame, winter. There you go. All right.
We have a season.
Winter is coming, and if you live in the UK, winter it's a big wide open.
Actually, that's a good point. If you're south of the equator, summer.
Yeah, summer, right? That's true. All right, and my last question for both of you is what has been the most challenging part on working this game, compared to the previous games that you worked on?
So for me, it's finding the balance between appealing to the existing fan base who kind of wanted that hard as nails gameplay, and then trying to bring new people in. And it's kind of seeing how many different things we can do to work towards that. And Simon talked about the multiple paths, which you asked about, and that's actually been a really interesting way for us to do it. So once you get into later levels, you're going to have kind of a critical path or a golden path, and that's going to be the route you want to take if you want to get through. So that's kind of the welcoming aspect, that there's always a nice way through the level. And if you want to explore, if you want that kind of hard as nails gameplay, then you want to start exploring. You want to kind of find the different paths. And there's a number of different things we've done, and there's kind of things we've done in terms of easing off mechanics from the original game. You had to land, you had to press A to land or X, depending on controller. Yeah. In the original games, if you didn't land, you slammed. It was pretty brutal. So we kind of smoothed that out. And we've kind of flipped it. In the original games, if you weren't good enough, we punished you. Whereas this time, we will reward you. The better that you get, the more we'll reward you. And that's been a really kind of interesting journey to go on.
Yeah, that's good. And for you, Simon?
For me, I think it's building this entire world from scratch. We love doing it. We love world building as game developers, but it's building essentially an entire encapsulation of the sort of skate genre in a world, and building out all these brands. And I think a lot of that's come quite naturally to the team, because the team are so talented, and like a lot of them are involved in their, in their own sort of lives outside of video games, in skateboarding or extreme sports. Mm-hmm. But it's about, building this world, right? Like we want this space to feel like a welcoming and cohesive skate utopia, and like pulling together all the elements for that and what that actually means for the player has been, is a new part to the game. It's not just about the core mechanics of like the moment-to-moment skate stuff, which we're building on. We already had that basis. This is the new bit that we're layering over the top. And I think it's taken a while to come together, but I really feel like it's a really nice space just to be, right? It's a really vibrant, like, experience for the player. And having been built like out of, a world in which we're all living in our own crazy nonsense over the past year, it's a wonderful escape to have this sort of really quirky, vibrant world where we can, I guess, like fantasize a bit about what the world could be like if it was all just, skateboarding. So
yeah. No, I just want to say, man, congrats on a cool demo. Can't wait for the final version to come out later this year. And for more information, do you have a website or social media for people to follow?
Yeah, it's at OlliOlli Game on Twitter, at OlliOlli Game. And yeah.
All right, cool. Thanks a lot, guys.
Amazing. Thanks, Danny.
Thank you. Great to meet you.
All right, same here.